There are many ways to describe a game. One of the easiest one is by using tags. It's ideal for search engines and players who know what the tags mean. Those players then easily know what type of game it describes. Against the Storm is a city builder colony sim, but there is another missing tag. If you know what these tags mean, then everything is fine, but misunderstandings or lack of knowledge might result in getting the wrong picture from just tags. Against the Storm is a colony sim because you semi-control a feasible amount of people with needs that are all simulated one by one. It's a city builder because you have to mainly build and get resources. To understand the game properly, let's start with the fail state. How do you lose a game? In Against the Storm you have two main meters for your progress. The first one is impatience. If it maxes out, you lose. Impatience is increased by some things. It can be quests that you encounter randomly, or if colonists die or leave. The main one is time. Each minute, impatience grows, and so you have a limited amount of time to win each map. Before you close the video, Against the Storm is not a race against time. You have several methods to slow this down, and in some maps I could halt or reverse it completely. The best and most accessible option is through reputation, your second meter. If it reaches milestones, your impatience will decrease, but if it maxes out, you will also win. You can get reputation through special offers by traders or by having enough happiness in your colony. It is not actual happiness, but it is in most colony sims the same. A score each colonist have, how happy or satisfied they are, and in Against the Storm it's called resolve. Each game starts with your main warehouse and your main hearth, which will need constant fuel. You are also surrounded by forest and mist clades. The clades without any symbol are usually safe to open and have resources or special objects in them. The ones with a symbol have a threat you need to overcome. Those threats are usually a certain resource you have to sacrifice and some people working on it. Speaking of, resources are gathered by harvesters you can build. Different nodes requires different harvesters, and larger nodes even advanced harvesters. Also, your colonists need housing. Most importantly are woodcutters that will open clades and increase your building space. Each active woodcutter will also increase hostility. Hostility is a measurement that impacts resolve. Each level of hostility will decrease resolve by roughly 2. There are also seasons. The first two are not important, but Storm, the third season, will decrease your resolve massively. For each tier reached of hostility, you get different negative effects. Most common is something like -4 resolve for each hostility level. But there are also stuff like killing homeless colonists. You can decrease hostility and the negative effects on Storm Season, which roughly lasts 5 minutes, by removing woodcutters or sacrifice fuel in your main hearth. This is enough for a start, but you also need to expand. For that you need advanced resources, so you build a crude workstation that will make planks, cloth and other stuff. Those are needed for advanced buildings. Each reputation milestone also gives you recipes that are for advanced resource production or special buildings that will increase resolve directly or indirectly. Buildings can be categorized in two different types: production buildings and consumption buildings. The temple is a consumption building. It can use incense and scrolls to satisfy the need of religion and education in your colony. If you have enough workers in it, it will get a bonus. These special bonuses are different for each building, and the temple reduces hostility scaled to how long stuff has been sacrificed at the hearth. All consumption buildings just consume items obtained somewhere else. The opposite is true for production buildings. These produce stuff. And we can further divide them into primary and secondary production, which is something from economy. Primary means extraction and production of raw materials like clay, wood or fiber. Farms also fall into this category. They don't need anything besides suitable farmland, or in the case of harvesters, resource nodes. The secondary production buildings are for processing and are our industry. You can make wood to planks or fiber to cloth. You can also use meat and firewood to make smoked meat. These resources are either used for consumption in the case of meat, or for building and quest resolving in the case of planks and cohorts. For some advanced strategies, you can place maximums on certain products. This is usually better for the start, so your workers won't make endless planks, but also go to make some bricks after reaching, let's say, 20 planks. You also might want to prevent your colonists from instantly eating consumer goods. This may be for two reasons. I already mentioned clade events, and those are not completely random. There are many repeating events and some resources are more often used. For example, incense. You want to hold off your colonists from consuming these in case you run into an event that wants those. And if you don't have it, the event might have a negative outcome, for example destroying all your food or killing 5 random villagers. The second reason is for impact. Resolve only matters if below or above thresholds. If it's 0 or below, your colonists will leave, thus increasing impatience. If it's above a threshold, different to each of the 5 races, those are humans, beaver, harpies, foxes and lizards. Each race have different needs and are better at different jobs. If they have enough resolve, either through consumption or through consumption buildings or cornerstones, then they will increase reputation and thus win you the game. Everything between does not matter. Humans, for example, need 30 resolve to increase reputation. If you are at 16 and they start eating porridge and wear clothes, it will only increase it to 22. It won't make them work faster or increase reputation in that case. They only consume without any benefit, so you might want to forbid them to. This also results in a minus resolve. If you have something humans want, for example, clothing, and you prevent them from using it, you get a -1 resolve, so keep that in mind. Cornerstones are another great addition to the colonist type gameplay. After each year you can have a special effect. Those ranges from minor ones, like producing more of a resource, or massive ones, like a decrease in patience, seeing through clades and similar. Some of those are sold by traders that come to your colony sporadically after you have built the trading post. Those are usually worthwhile and cost amber. Amber is a trading resource that can be exchanged for resources. Each trader exchanges different resources, but all traders exchange amber. Another way to obtain these is by trade routes that cost provision packs, made in your buildings. You should always take cornerstones if you are able to. You also get orders depending on your difficulty. Orders are smaller tasks like having enough humans, having enough resolve or resources. When you fulfill that order, you get a reputation point and some bonuses. Before I go through some of my favorite strategies, let me tell you what elevates Against the Storm from a good game to a great one. When I said there is a missing tag, I meant roguelike. Against the Storm does not have roguelike gameplay, but it has roguelike progression, and that is probably the reason why this tag is missing. In normal roguelikes, failure or death is a central theme, and this is not the case for Against the Storm. You win more often than you lose, and so the gameplay is different, but in roguelike games you have resources, often called prestige resources, that are persistent between runs. Those resources can be used to upgrade your starting equipment, stats, chances and more. Those are also present in Against the Storm. You have a whole upgrade tree that has minimal changes, for example it makes your colonists walk faster, or massive changes, like having more cornerstones options or recipes from the start. This system is something that I was missing from other games without realizing it. I love strategy games, as well as colony sims, but each round is always isolated. You play a bit, win, and that's it. In Against the Storm you obtain persistent upgrades for each of your games. So you get something out of each round, and that is a very attractive gameplay mechanic. This means I'm not just playing a map for the fun of the round itself, but also the progression I get out of it. And I think this is Against the Storm's best feature. Now let's talk about my favorite strategy so far. When you start a colony, you can choose first between 2, then between 3 sets of races. And I usually take humans, because when they are tasked with supplying the main half, they give a reduction to impatience accumulation. I first place roads, then 4 houses and any harvester I need for my starting nodes. You can easily choose those, because the Against the Storm team probably has hired an UI genius. No, really, the UI is really well made and provides enough information while not being obnoxious for the game. It also provides shortcuts that make sense. You click on a node and it displays what harvesters you need, and then you can click on it and build it. I know this is a small improvement, but this game has many-fold of those, and it smooths out the experience. I will also build 3 woodcutters and then let the game process this. My woodcutters will harvest any wood but leave clades alone. This can be set in the options menu and is very useful for controlling when to open clades and engage with the content which otherwise might come too early or within a storm, and that makes it just more difficult. After opening up some clades without dangers, I search for fertile soil. You need some kind of farm because soon enough your food production will not keep up with just harvesters. Each year I take cornerstones that either reduce hostility or impatience, and if those not there, I take the ones that give extra resources, like for 50 wood, 1 amber, or if I'm unlucky and those are also missing, I take the ones that give bonus resources, like +1 fabric. Also, I take every villager I can. Some of the resources I want earliest are incense and training equipment. Those are often needed by clades and I look out for the recipes. You get 3 recipes from the start, so chances are high you will get those 2 resources covered. I also make planks, fabric and bricks in the starting workshop and build a trading post. Every time a trader comes, I will take the best cornerstones. I usually refrain from immediately getting orders. Orders come in tiers with increasing difficulty, and some lucrative ones can be time sensitive. For example, the lowest tier often has the condition that one of your races should have high resolve. The later ones want you to open X clades or open forbidden clades, the most dangerous ones. Because those orders are often the same, I prepare for them. I build consumption buildings and gather consumer goods and cut around clades. Then I open the order and sometimes I'm unlucky, but more often I'm rewarded for that. And over time I win, mostly with the guild hall, which will provide 1 resolve for each 60 amber traded, which in year 8 might as well be a bonus of 12. That's how I mostly play, but I strongly recommend playing the game and testing your own strategies. Give me a sub or like on the way out, kind stranger, and farewell.